Hey everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, Pinta.
Okay, I just wanted to see if I'm audible. So I don't see anything being shared on my screen,
I
so
don't
I
see
just want to
anything
make sure
too.
I'm
I just started sharing.
Yeah,
okay.
it's coming up
Yeah.
now. Okay.
Right. So, start- right. So in today's session, right, we'll try to understand what exactly is velocity and what are the certain out of the box features that come along with velocity. And whenever we talk about velocity, it's mostly about you hear something called industry specific domain or industry clouds. So we'll try to get a better understanding of what exactly that is, and yeah, there are certain advantages using velocity. Yeah, we'll try to see all of these in our session today. Right. So before we proceed, as you all know, like velocity is in any platform, we usually get there are three different types of services, right? IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. So we generally use SaaS platform of velocity, a SaaS capability of Salesforce to develop our applications and provide a software kind of thing, which end users can utilize over internet without having installing any software, right? And yeah, then there's this PaaS layer, which is going to use the Salesforce infrastructure, and using certain Salesforce features, they try to build a platform, and using that, we can, as a developer, we can build a software and provide it to end customer, right? So Velocity, Viva, all CRM, all these things use PaaS. So yeah, that's basically what Velocity is. So when you speak technically, it's nothing but a managed package which provides you certain Apex classes or VF pages, or certain objects and relationships along with that, right? So yeah, let's dig a little deep in understanding, what is Velocity and what are the industry specific clouds, right? So in Velocity, basically Velocity uses uh, it's natively built on Salesforce, and it uses existing Salesforce data model, right? We have the sales data model where we have these opportunities, leads, accounts, contacts, and there are relationships between all these objects, right? So using that standard Salesforce data model, Velocity has created few more, objects, and created few more relationships among them, and providing us industry specific cloud. So whenever we say industry specific cloud, that basically means, uh, for example, let's consider the pharma industry. Right now, it's the hot topic, right? We have this coronavirus, and we have these vaccinations, all happening, right? So what exactly, as per when you speak about technically what happens, in the back end, right? So usually these pharma companies, they will go through all these, before creating a drug, they go through all these clinical trials and all. And once that is done, they try to uh, uh, get the product into the market by using their sales rep, right? Those sales reps from those sales executives of those, Pfizer or Novartis, all these companies go to doctors or hospitals, and they make a visit to them, and they explain their product, what are the benefits of using them and all. And eventually doctors get the sample, and once they find it good, then they start prescribing those products, those companies' products. That's how they increase their market, right? So for all of this, whatever the platform they use to build a software to, make sure that this entire business flow fits in, right? Whatever the platform they use, but ultimately the business flow is always going to be the same. You may use Java, you may use some Cbel systems, or you may use Salesforce, or you may use Velocity. The business flow is always going to be the same. It's just the application, the way you create, or the kind of development that goes in is what you know is going to be the different thing, right? Always the business flow is same. So that's how Velocity has identified certain business flows and they have created industry specific cloud, right? For example, when we spoke about a pharma, like similarly, there are for telecom companies, there is a whole set of business that set of flows that happen in the back end, right? Insurance companies, maybe they all have a different software, but ultimately their business flow is again same thing. So this way, they have identified around 6 or 7 different industries that are kind of major or hot, you can say. uh, those things, they have created this data model. They have used this existing Salesforce data model, and on top of that they are trying to build I mean create certain new objects and relationships and providing us the industry specific data model. So let's talk about communications, for example. Let's just talk about one domain, you then to get a clarity on that. For example, for telecom companies, maybe in India it's a different scenario. You can go anywhere and get a SIM card, but usually in North America or Australia or Europe, you have to go to a website, and then there you choose various products, the SIM card, the plans, and everything, and eventually you give your account details if you're a new customer to that company, and finally once all of that is done, you do the payment, and uh, after a week or so you'll get your SIM card delivered and you can activate the SIM and your plan, right? So that's the flow that goes uh, that happens in the telecom domain, right? So in the backend they need a specific kind of standard sales process which fits into this business flow, right? So for that purpose, Velocity is using, for example, in Salesforce, we have product object, assets, order line items, accounts, contacts, users. All these are standard objects. Using all these standard objects, Velocity has created certain other objects, and they are extending. They have created few more relationships and extending their data model to make sure that this entire process fits in and this entire business flow fits in technically, right? So if you take insurance domain, everything revolves around quote line items, all these objects, right? So insurance, like it's based on the beneficiaries you choose or based on the policies you choose, based on the type of insurance you choose. There are a lot of pricing calculations that happen. So for all that purpose, we use quote and quote line objects, line item objects. So using those objects, Velocity has created certain other objects and relationships and extending the data model to fit in the business flows for each domain, right? So that's how we have around all these various domains that exist in Velocity as of now. Right now, almost they're trying to make it extend these domains up to 15. I think very recently they have launched a few more, but yeah, the uh, uh, most frequently used or most stabilized, you can say, most stabilized domains are communications, insurance, energy and utilities, and health, right? So if you see, these are all certain few customers that are using Velocity, right? Uh, CMT is nothing but communications, media, and telecom. Uh, Even these are the certain companies: Verizon, M1 Telecom, British Telecom, Vodafone. Vodafone has recently started, using Velocity, and they have in insurance. We have certain other customers and all, right? Even for government sector there are that is still they're not these domains are not as stable as CMT or insurance, but they are still good. Like New Zealand ministry is using this government sector, and Canadian government is using, Australian government is using, even US government is using this Velocity government domain, right? So we'll just see why Velocity. What are the advantages of using Velocity? First thing is, we all know how good the Salesforce data model is. It is kind of, you can say, it's a strong one, and On top of that, I mean, instead of using entirely new data model or something like that, using the existing Salesforce data model, it's just that few more. For example, we have order and order line item objects, and like for example, in a telecom domain, if a customer comes in, let's say we are offering a promotion to him, right? Like maybe $20 less or 20 rupees less, right? So for applying these promotions, you need in the backend you need certain objects, right? Some promotions objects and offer applied. So there are certain objects, right? So this way they have created these objects and utilizing the existing Salesforce data model uh, to make sure that the business flow fits in, right? Next thing is uh, let's say in Salesforce, if you only know admin, I mean, it's really difficult to survive, right? And in initial days, Salesforce used to say that like it's 70% customer configuration and 30% customization. But that actually, when you start working in projects, that never really happens, right? You usually see that it's like there almost 70 to 80% of customization goes in lots of epics and lots of you know coding that happens, and because of that eventually after a certain amount of time all the applications become so much code heavy, and eventually you have to optimize all the code and all. But when it comes to velocity, you can build complex business logics in a very fast and quick paced way, right? And plus, it is going to be very easy for the developer, and actually, it makes the developer's life very easy, right? Uh, if you are trying to, let's say, if you are trying to build an application form, right? You're trying to get some user details, and once you get all those details, you are loading it back to Salesforce, right? Maybe a user object or something. When you're doing this, usually you have to create an Apex controller, you have to create a VF page or Lightning component or something like that, right? And you have to write, few lines of code. But when you use Velocity, Velocity is providing certain components, and these components execute almost the similar functionality of what you can do using standard Salesforce, customization things, right? Maybe an Apex class or VF page or Lightning component. Instead of using those, we can simply uh, uh, use these certain velocity out of the box components, and we can build the same kind of logics, and all most of the, I mean, I would say 90% of it is going to be just drag and drop. We'll see a little more clear about that. Um, yeah, and when you want to integrate with an external system, let's say we have MuleSoft. When you want to make an API call, or when you want to expose an API to MuleSoft, usually you have to write so many lines of code, and it requires coding knowledge. But when you are using Velocity, it's going to be quite simple. You can build any kind of complex API, and hardly, at least the base structure can be built within, hardly 10 minutes. If you use certain velocity components, right? And next thing is for all the data processing, uh, Velocity uses JSON format. I mean, there are other formats like XML is also acceptable, but Velocity suggests, and the most preferred data processing language is JSON format, which is very easy to understand, which is very faster in processing, and it is a very lightweight language. Right? You don't need any special skills to understand JSON. All you have to do is just look at it, and like you can figure out what is going on. I mean, what values assigned to which variable and where exactly that variable is. All that you can quickly understand it, right? So JSON is used in Velocity, and it's like in entire Velocity. Like you most probably come across scenarios where you have to deal with your data in JSON format. Right. Now let's discuss about certain out-of-the-box features that are provided by Velocity. Right. So uh, if you take any uh, e-commerce site, right? Basically, any place where you can go buy certain things online and they get delivered to you, right? When you go come across any online sales process, right? There are actually, it's basically divided into two parts if you speak in technical terms. First first thing is, from the time a customer enters into a website till the time he makes the payment, that entire journey is called order capture, right? For example, I go to Amazon website and choose a mobile phone and go to my cart, and if I'm a new user, they'll ask me to give the basic details like first name, last name, and email and phone number. If I'm already existing customer, they ask me to log in. Once I do that, I can select the address or create a new address and proceed to the payment, right? So uh, in this whole scenario, in this whole process, all we did was providing the system the inputs that are required, right? That basically means trying to capture the information from the customer, what product he wants, where does he wants it to be delivered, or what is his mobile number or email, and what is the payment method he's picking, and what is the amount he paid. So in this whole process, all we are going to do is fetch the details from the customer. So that's why it is called as order capture, right? So velocity is providing certain out of the box components that makes developing this order capture journey very easy, right? So think about it when you are, I'll show you one example. Yeah, this particular website, although this first page is from a different place, but once I click on this, from this moment, whatever you see is entirely built on velocity, right? Both front end and back end.
This is running on Salesforce, the website.
Yes, using the communities and all, they are providing the site. Yeah. So yeah, uh, you can see this entire thing is, built on velocity. I mean, this is actually built on velocity, and all the screens you are seeing here, are all built on velocity. We'll discuss about what component they are using and how they are making it all simple, right? You can see in this whole process, what I'm doing is trying to pick my, just a minute. Yeah. I'm sorry, my network is, I think, slow. Yeah. In this page, I mean, in these all these pages, what we are doing, we are trying to, the pick my plan, right? Basically, it's nothing but the product that is being provided by this particular company, right? I based on my product that I choose, automatically the price is updated, and here there are certain add-ons, and I can choose any of them. And so, say if I'm a new customer, I can go and choose any number here, right? Or I can go for port in scenario and I can enter my mobile number here, right? Yeah. Next, they'll show a review page where they'll display all your details, and here they are going to ask like whether I'm an existing customer or a new customer. So based on that, I'll give my details and eventually proceed on to payment page, right? So this is one example, and again, this front end is different, but yeah, all the back end data is coming from Velocity, Salesforce. This is visible is basically Verizon's subsidiary, and whoever is from America, maybe they would have known this. And here uh, Verizon Visible basically offers both SIM card as well as they also sell mobile phones. So you can pick any mobile phone and choose all the properties required, maybe the color, SIM size, and all. And they are providing when you buy a mobile phone, they are already providing a SIM card, right? So here, once I click on continue, I can either sign in or enter my details, right? You can build all of these screens in Velocity without using a single line of code. That's the specialty about it. And there are certain things that you can, that are provided by Velocity, which makes development quite faster, right?
So this whole thing, you didn't write any code, whatever
This
you
is
just showed
actually
us.
built on another UI, but this is data is coming from Velocity. But yeah, in this one, yeah, not even a single line of code. I mean, wherever you see the special colors or backend images, those
Mhm.
places you use Angular. Otherwise,
Okay.
uh, I mean, obviously, any where you have to add this UI for UI richness, you have to add these special things, right? CSS or Angular, JavaScript, or
Mhm.
something.
Okay.
Other than that, whatever you see, the basic structure entirely is built on Velocity without using a single line of code. I'll show you a prototype kind of thing, which is, I mean, similar kind of page. I have made something like that. So I'll show you that one. So it can be done in Velocity without using a single line of code. Everything is going to be drag and drop, and that way it becomes quite faster, right? So that's just one part of Velocity, right? Until now, whatever we spoke about, it's all just one part of Velocity that is called as order capture, right? And next thing is, yeah, as we spoke about, Velocity provides you this declarative approach kind of components, with which you can build uh, complex business logics, and yet it is all going to be simple for the developer, right? And there is something when we spoke about e-commerce, websites, we spoke about order capture, but order capture, once they get this order, they receive this order, Amazon's or Flipkart's journey is not done, right? They have to get the product delivered to you, right? Until the time the product gets delivered to you, their job is not yet done, right? So same goes for here, telecom clients as well, right? It could be activating a plan, or it could be delivering a SIM card, or delivering a mobile and SIM card, whatever it is. After user places the order, there is whole other process that goes on in the backend, right? From the time the user makes the payment till the time he uh, uh, the product gets delivered to the end customer. That whole process is called order management, and Velocity is providing us something called orchestration and decomposition, right? Uh, these are Velocity related features. Using this, you can build so complex backend order management process, which is very robust and dynamic, right? For example, let's say you're buying two different products. One is a SIM card, and I'm buying another plan, like let's say some 599 plan, right? So in order to deliver this 599 plan, all I need is whether to check the SIM is active, and I have to make sure that the plan is activated, right? But without the SIM card, I'll not be able to do that, right? But so first, we have the telecom company has to make sure that SIM card gets delivered first, right? So to deliver the SIM card, there is again a lot of process that happens, right? You verify the documents of the user. Once that is done, you get a SIM card, and you tag this mobile number that has been chosen by the user to that SIM card, and you reserve this particular SIM card so that this is not available for any other customers. And you tag, just like mobile phone has IMEI IDs, SIM card also will have something called ICC ID and IMSI. So these numbers have to be tagged. And Once all of this is done, they have to dispatch the SIM card, and finally it reaches to the nearest hub to the customer, and then the delivery executive is going to deliver the SIM card. Once all of this is done, then you activate the SIM card first, then you activate the product, that 599 plan. Right? This is the whole process that has to be done when user chooses a SIM card and a plan. Right? So this entire process can be, I mean, you have to take care of all this process in the backend somewhere, right? So this whole process is called order management, and for that, Velocity is providing this orchestration and decomposition. So using this orchestration, we can build all these dynamic, flows for each and every product, which can be interrelated. Right? When you actually, when we start, looking into this session, when we start discussing about this orchestration, then you'll actually understand, what I'm trying to say, because the Velocity has provided such a dynamic order management process. I don't think it is available anywhere else. You yourself will get to know once you start working on that. Right. So that's another thing. And the next part in Velocity is EPC, Enterprise Product Catalog. Right? So you have a telecom company, you're delivering this, all this, or you have order capture and order management process, all of that is fine. All of this makes sense only when you actually have a product, right? When you actually have a product catalog, right? You go to any shop, you ask for a menu kind of thing, right? You go to any hotel, you ask for a menu. So you should have a menu or a product catalog so that the customers can come in and look at the products and buy the products, right? So Velocities again had identified, okay, this has to be there, and that's why they have built a kind of, you can say, as a developer myself, I say that it's an awesome uh, tool that has been provided by Velocity. You can do so much, so many things in one single screen, right? You can literally configure your product from the start, right, till the end, without using any kinds of code or anything. Only, using configuration, just in one single screen, you can build up a very dynamic product. So when I say dynamic product, for example, if you go to Amazon, you can buy one single product, maybe a mobile phone, and if you scroll down, there will be an option. There will be some options like, if you buy a mobile phone, a back panel, and also a screen guard. Usually, that, let's say that costs. If you buy these individual products, it may cost you 12,000, but if you buy together, it will cost you only 11,000. Right. So there are certain scenarios where you may want to sell a customer uh, a product individually as well as in a bundle, right? So when you say bundle, it basically means a group of products, right? So you can configure all of those things in EPC. You can configure very complex product structures in EPC, right? So that is another tool provided by your Velocity. And next thing is CPQ. What actual CPQ is there in Salesforce, right? So it's, yeah, it is almost same thing, but what Velocity doing here is CPQ has a lot of parts. It's not a small thing. It's a very complex, again, a platform which is built for especially for pricing, right? So Velocity is using this Salesforce and CPQ to provide something called Velocity CPQ, right? You don't need to extensively know CPQ here. It's just that Velocity using certain elements of CPQ to make sure that the pricing also fits in with the EPC they are providing, right? So here also, for example, yeah, just now we spoke about the example, right, where you can buy a product individually. If I can go and buy a back panel individually, which costs me maybe around 1,000, and I may buy a, a screen guard individually, which may again cost me 1,000. I may buy the mobile phone, which may cost 10,000 for me, right? Totally, it goes up to 12,000. But if I buy the bundle of these three together, it will cost me only 11,000, right? So you need you're configuring the products, these kind of complex products. That is all fine using the UPC or building all that, but also you need to build the same kind of complex pricing, right? When you're buying it individually, it should show a different price, and when you're buying with a group, you should display a different price, right? There should be adjustments, there should be overrides, there should be a lot of rules that should apply. If I'm selling in one state, it can be a different price. If I'm selling in another state, you can show different price. There are a lot of parameters that comes into picture, and again, in one single screen, you can do much more uh, related to pricing using this Velocity CPQ, right?
Hey, Dilip, sorry to interrupt. So I was just wondering if you can actually show us, the velocity part as you are explaining. I think it'll be so much better to make those connections. Is that how you're
Yeah,
planning to do?
I'll show you. I mean, uh, I thought of just once explaining to you, then actually show you, then it may be easier for you.
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
think it'll be better to, you can just make those connections, between both. Yeah.
sure, sure.
Sorry
Okay.
if I'm derailing your, uh, your plan for the
Yeah, yeah,
presentation, but yeah, just a suggestion.
right, right. Yeah. So yeah, as we said, like let's actually look into how to build, these pages, and yeah, let's actually look at the Salesforce org and see how you can actually do all these things, right? So first of all, let's before going into Salesforce, let's just understand Velocity is providing. There are certain tools, right? As we spoke about development, right? How to build uh, certain web pages or backend logics, all of that using drag and drop. So Velocity is providing two sets of tools, interaction tools and data tools. And that interaction tools are nothing but UI kind of tools. Data tools are backend, related. So the first one is Omniscript, right? So this is the actual replacement of your uh, Visual Force page or Lightning page, right? Omniscript, then Omni itself means a guided flow. So you basically build a uh, you basically build a script which can be built for a guided flow, right? You, in order to provide a business flow, you can use Omniscript. Okay, let's just look at one example. Yeah, this is one example which is going to look a little bit similar to this page, right? You can build whatever screen you are seeing here, right? You can build almost similar thing over here using Omniscript, right? So all you do is this is called Omniscript, and this is a Velocity feature that comes out of the box. And when you create a new Omniscript, I mean, there's this tab where you can go and you can create these things. And here you get all the available components that are provided by Velocity, and you can use these available components and build, web pages which look like this, right? For example, here, if you see here, there is something called pick new number and keep my existing number, right? These two options, but ideally this is a radio button, but made it, look like this, right? So it's nothing but if you go to Omniscript, if you go to these available components, you will find all of these things, radio buttons or numbers or password, all these various types of fields, text fields, date fields, all these things, right? You can use all these fields, you can drag and drop them into this center part, and you can configure the properties on the right side, right? So if you see this particular thing, right? Where you choose the number. I mean, where you can go for these two options, right? So you can see that is nothing but a radio button here. I mean, a radio field which is dragged and dropped over here, and it is has been configured how, I mean, how it should look, or what are the options, all that things are actually configured over here, right? So this way, Velocity is providing us. I mean, for example, think of building this particular page, right? The sign up page, right? So usually you are going to create a VF page or Lightning component, but instead you can go and create an Omniscript, and you can drag and drop. I mean, instead of, even if it's even if it may be a simple thing for you, if you know how to build a VF page or Lightning component, but still it requires coding skills. But here you don't need all of that. You can simply drag and drop and you know uh, configure those properties and everything, and you can make these things. You can make build a web page using Omniscripts.
So where do you make that connection that this field is associated to this particular radio button is associated to a particular field on the back end? How do you make that connection?
That, yeah, we'll see that as well, in some time. Yeah, up till now it's like, just think of it like, without any Apex controller, you just built a VF page, or without any Apex controller, you are building a Lightning component, right? There is no connection between Salesforce as of now. You are just building all of this in Velocity servers. That's what you can say, right? Uh, until now, you have not made any connection with the Salesforce, right? When we talk about these data tools, that time we'll get to that part.
So you said that it's a radio button, right? But it looks very different. So where did you make that? Um,
Yeah,
is it
sure.
what kind of
We'll
quality
talk
is
about
that?
that. Yeah. So most of the part, for the most part, I mean, you can see that it's this orange line is the thing that is extra, but everything else is a normal radio button here. You can configure that radio button over here. You can make sure how the options are going to appear, whether it's a vertical way, like one after the other, or in the horizontal way, like this, right? So uh, uh, you can configure all of that. You can choose the options. You can select like which should be the default one. I mean, the moment I launch this page, which should be the default one, and I can give this auto advance. That means the moment I select this option, maybe if I'm executing some backend functionality or something, so without clicking next button or something, automatically it gets advanced to an selection and all, right? You can do all of that. But as per your question, right? Why is it looking a little different, right? Basically, that little difference is coming from this orange line, right? So that is coming from the template, right? Template is the only place where you have to use code, and that to Angular JavaScript, right? So, for example, if you build anything in Salesforce without any UI styling, it is going to be like this blue and white, right? So same thing goes with Velocity. So ideally, no line appears, just a small, this kind of blue line is going to come. But to make it appear like this, you can see there is a template. There is something called template that is being used. In these templates, you can write your Angular JavaScript code,
Okay.
right?
So is that how is that incorporated here?
It's something again that
It's a
is
static
just like
resource or something?
sorry, what was that?
Is it in the static resource or something? Like how do you?
Yeah, that's what. So Omniscript, just like Omniscripts, there is again something called templates, which is again out of the box feature that comes with the managed package. So these templates, you can create your own Angular JavaScript codes. And just like how in Salesforce we have API name, so for these templates also there will be API name. So you can use that API name over here in these elements. So for almost every element in your Omniscript, will have something called HTML template ID. There you can use this template. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, so the other interaction tool is basically cards and FlexiCards. So as we have seen, Omniscripts are used to build, you can say web pages. I mean, uh, just like how you can use your Lightning components in community page, a community builder, you can use Omniscripts as well in the community builder. So you can build, entire web application, using these Omniscripts. Right, there is a specific way how you build this Omniscript and all of that, that we can look into when we actually start the session. Right. uh, Next thing is cards. For example, you have for every company, every company, they require a customer care, right? So for that you need to create an agent console screen, right? Where if any customer calls in, these customer care agents should not get confused to where to go and what to do. So instead we provide all of that customers information in one single screen, right? And something like this, it looks like this. I mean, this is one example of a telecom company. So you can build all of that customer information. You can fetch all of that and display in one single screen. So basically, cards are used for that purpose. To give a 360-degree view of a customer, you use cards. Here also, other than Angular JavaScript, to make the UI rich, to bring that richness to the UI, everything else is dealt with configuration, right? So this way you can see on the right side, left hand side, you're seeing this account information, and in the bottom you're seeing the recent orders, and on the middle you're seeing this, the mobile which he has, and you know there are other lines for that customer. So maybe all of those mobiles and SIM cards, current plan actives, and you see there are certain buttons to download bill or manage payments, all these things, right? You can incorporate a lot of front end and back end logics in one single screen, and you can do that using cards.
Yeah, hi sir. Where should we write Angularjs scripts in Velocity?
Yeah, that's what. So whenever I mean, you build an Omniscript or you build a card, that is all fine, but most probably, obviously customers are going to require this UI richness. Maybe uh, Zomato, everything is in red color, right? If you go to Facebook, it's everything is in blue color. So they'll have their own themes and they'll have their own stylings, right? So
Yeah.
to add those UI richness, we have something called templates, and in templates we use Angular JavaScript code. So these templates are again nothing but a out of the box velocity feature, right? Uh, I'll just show you one.
Okay. We will write on like Visual Force or any.
No, there is something specifically called templates where you can write your Angular JavaScript code. Yeah, you can see this is Angular.js, which has been written, which has this all HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So you can write your Angular JavaScript code over here in the templates to define all these color formats or anything. Basically, you want to add a rich UI.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Right. So these are the three interaction tools or UI tools provided by Vlocity. The first two, Omniscripts and cards, can be built entirely without any code. And the third thing, templates, uh, is there for the only purpose of using Angular JavaScript, right? And
So existing templates can also be modified. That is, those templates that come with Velocity can also be modified.
you can clone them and modify that.
Okay, we get okay.
Yeah, we can create a version of an existing template, but also you can clone the entire template and you can create versions on top of that.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
Next,
then we can resize the, I mean, field length and like
yeah,
that in for
for
the
that
standard
matter,
templates, right? By
yeah, for
cloning
that
the.
matter, you don't even have to go to a template. For example, uh, you can define all those field length and everything here itself. Uh,
Yeah.
as I'm telling you now, in when you use an Omniscript, mostly you use Angular JavaScript only to control how the coloring or how the styling or how these extra UI things are going to come. Rest
Okay.
everything or like require making it a required or read only or repeating itself
Uh,
when it is a list or something or controlling the length of it. All of that you can do it in Omniscript,
okay.
right?
Template, right?
Yeah, template.
Which is, yeah. Okay.
Right. Next thing is we'll see these data tools. So data tools is, I mean, when you use these data tools, I mean, specifically there are three or four data tools. When you use those four or three or four, then only you're actually contacting with Salesforce. Otherwise, you're building everything entirely in Velocity, right? For example, you're building an Omniscript. That means you have created a blank HTML page, like which doesn't have any significance until you connect it with a database or you connect, you have some backend logic, right? So Omniscript is nothing but, I mean, when you actually speak in technical terms, for designing this Omniscript, this screen that you see is nothing but a VF page provided by Velocity, right? And if you create an Omniscript, this is nothing but a Salesforce record, maybe stored in some Omniscript object or something. But Velocity is making sure that it looks better for developer so that we can comfortably do all this development by simply dragging and dropping by creating this Visual Force page, right? So yeah, that's how these Omniscripts or cards doesn't have any significance until you work with data tools. You connect these, use these data tools to make sure that there is a connection between these uh, things which you have built on Velocity and Salesforce, right? For example, uh, let's say I'm an already existing customer, right? If I go to this uh, Amazon website or somewhere, after choosing all of this product, if I click on sign in and if I log in as a customer, then it should not ask me to create a new address. Instead, it should show the existing address details, and maybe if it is not enough, then there should be an option to create new also, right? It basically has to extract the existing details. How do you do that? Usually we go for a query in Salesforce, but you use a data Raptor extract here, right? Data Raptor extract is a place where you can build configurable SOQL queries. And the best part of Data Raptor is, for example, it's if you are having a huge Apex code, right? Imagine having all of those queries that are required, having all of them at one place, right? So data Raptor extract is going to be the exact same thing. It's a replacement for SOQL query so that you can configure it, right? You can work with any number of objects in a single data Raptor, uh, even if they are not at all related, right? I can extract some account related or account object related fields, and I can extract some random custom object field which is not even related. And the best part about this data Raptor extract is you can build JSON structure then and there itself in a way you want, and you can apply certain standard, also certain custom formulas. I mean, Velocity allows you to create a custom formula of your own. I mean, for example, if there is a if condition in Salesforce, if you're using if in formula field, that's nothing but in the backend, Salesforce is calling an Apex class and a method with all those as parameter, right? It's ultimately an Apex class being called in the backend. So similarly, Velocity provides you that liberty to create your own formulas and apply them on the data or whatever it is, right? So that's data Raptor extract. Again, data Raptor load is nothing but, for example, in this particular page, I choose this number and I click on continue, right? It should be saved somewhere in Salesforce so that when I fetch this account's information, this person's information, I should see this number, right? How do I do that? Using data Raptor load. Data Raptor load is used to perform the DML operations minus this delete, right? You can basically update or insert or upsert any records using data Raptor load. Same thing, you can work with any number of objects, and you can use standard and custom formulas, all of that. Basically, data Raptor load is used to update something back to Salesforce or create something new in Salesforce. You can define an object and you can choose what data goes into which field, and you call it at a particular time. So whenever that is called, I mean, maybe here after picking that number on click of continue, if I call this data Raptor load, so on clicking of continue, automatically the number is updated in that in the object you specify, in the field you specify, right? And data Raptor transform is nothing but it's we can discuss more about this when we actually start working. Data Raptor transform is basically to use to manipulate the JSON structures. We can talk more about that when we start Velocity, when we start our sessions. Yeah. Mm, last but not least thing, integration procedures, and this is the most, as far as I know, as far as my understanding is concerned, this is the best part of this whole Velocity components integration procedure. You can perform more complex logics. Whatever your Apex class does, almost of all of those logics can be done using integration procedure, right? You can you usually have lots of for loops, if loops, you have a lot of maps to deal with, you have so much of complex logics that are happening, and all of that you can do using integration procedure just by drag and drop. I mean, there are certain rare case scenarios where you definitely have to use Apex class. I mean, that is very rare, but most of the logics that you usually build in Apex class can be built in integration procedure. And you can invoke API or you can expose an API. I'll show you one prototype kind of thing. Example, right? This this is an integration procedure screen, which looks almost like an Omniscript screen. Where on the left hand side you'll see all the available components provided by Velocity. In the middle you use all those, you drag and drop all those components, and on the right hand side for each component you drag and drop, you can define the properties, right? Usually to make an any API call you have to create an Apex class, all of that, but blah blah, but all of that in integration procedure, just click on new in the integration procedure tab and drag and drop this HTTP action And in the HTTP action, just give your endpoint, give the method, and give the client ID, client secret, and basically headers and parameters. That's all. And you can configure this positive, negative, all of those responses just simply by drag and drops, right? It's pretty simple here, right? For example, I want to make an API call out to MuleSoft. All I do is go to this integration procedure tab, click on new, drag and drop this HTTP action, configure the endpoint parameters and all of that. That's all, right? And another example, for example, if I go to Amazon, if I click on this card button, basically what happens is in the backend is they are actually calling an API, right? Which provides us with a response. Or they may be calling, if you think of this as a Salesforce application, they may be calling some Apex class or something, right? To fetch all of these, items, right? So for that purpose, in Velocity, or you can build, all of that using, maybe some simple data Raptor or something, and you can extract all the information. And on giving an order ID, on using a data Raptor, you can extract all the information, something like this. So in JSON format, right? And this is one specific scenario which has been built, right? So this whole integration procedure is used to handle all the add-on related, things, right? All the add-on related things, like you can, today I come in and say I want to change my add-on, I want to subscribe to a new add-on, and later I may say like I want to change my add-on, like maybe I have subscribed to caller tune and I have chosen a particular song. Tomorrow I come and say I want to change the song, or I may disconnect a particular add-on, right? All of that, both all that backend logic has been built in using this integration procedure. So we are dealing with a lot of objects over here, like using these products, orders, order line items, so many objects, right? And all of that is being dealt with in one single integration procedure, which looks something like this, right? Uh, to check these duplicates, I mean, if there is any add-on already and whether they are subscribing to the same one or not. I mean, a lot of logics happen. All of that can be built in integration procedure without, using any code.
Okay, we can add validation rules while creating the records.
Yeah, you can. Validation is like, if you speak about velocity, it's pretty simple. Almost all, for every element, you can create a condition whether like only if it satisfies, then it executes that. Otherwise, it skips.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. And finally, I just want to show you one data Raptor. So this is a data Raptor, right? And you can see this is order object, this is account object, this is some external object, right? Which is not related to these, and there are certain other objects, and you can see the number of formulas that are applied.
So
And I
like
can,
process builder,
yeah,
if we update the records on another object, like
process builder
considering the
performs. I mean, I'm using one process builder, you can perform many actions, but it's like using data Raptor extract, you can perform you can extract any number of object records. Here it's more
okay,
like specific to one type of functionality. If you use a data Raptor load, it is there to perform deal with multiple objects only for data loading purposes, like maybe update or insert or upsert.
okay, we can update the fields. Example, if we uh, like Salesforce scenario, if you are updating on opportunity object, it will update on account and context objects. So like that, here is there any
Yeah, you can
option?
build all of that.
Okay.
You can use a data raptor load, and you can build those kind of logics, and you can
Okay.
add certain conditions, whether it depending on that condition, you can load various types of data.
Okay. And we can email alerts like that,
Yeah,
create new
yeah.
tasks.
All of that can be done. Those are all, I mean, if you speak about that, I mean, you feel that those are all like pretty small, compared to what Velocity is
Okay.
actually providing us. I mean, you don't even at
Okay.
a point, at a stage, you don't even bother about that much, right? So that's how Velocity is working. And not just that, there is this digital commerce and card-based APIs. I think this is there in Salesforce as well. I'm not much into that part, but uh, Velocity is adding certain more things here. These are nothing but, for example, you come across a situation where you want to apply an offer, right, to a particular order. You, instead of again writing an Apex class and all of that, right, this is a standard scenario for any telecom company to apply an offer, right? So Velocity has identified this, and they have created that code from their side, so that all you do is pass this input: what is the order ID, what is the offer ID, and you just pass these inputs to the API, and the logic will execute it from their side, and it comes back with a response. So that's how they build. They eased certain kind of features as well. And yeah, forgot to tell about this integration procedure. You can perform so much of complex logics. Actually, to be honest, you can uh, even apply these try-catch blocks. I mean, you usually use this try-catch block in Salesforce, right? You can do that as well. You can even go. You can see there is something called cache block. You can create your cache memory kind of thing, right? Yeah, there are quite a lot of complex things that can be built in integration procedures. Yeah, that's about Velocity. And in our training, we are going to cover all these scenarios: order capture, order management, EPC, CPQ, and we'll try to cover these DC and card-based APIs as well. So when we actually start, what we are going to do is we start working on a practical example and work with all these components and try to understand all those available components that are provided by Velocity one by one. And yeah, we'll try to build certain pages and see how it goes. Right. Any questions or anything?
Is there any reports and dashboards like in Salesforce?
No, you can use directly reports and dashboards of Salesforce itself, right?
Okay.
It's going to be the same. I mean, for example, the permission sets, or the, let's say you created a Omniscript where you have created a first name field, right? Whatever the data you enter in that first name field, let's say you want to load that data into account object, right? So
Yeah.
let's say the user, as that particular community user doesn't have permission to account object. In that case, that will not work. So Velocity
Okay.
is just built on top of Salesforce. So Velocity is going to respect everything that is already there in Salesforce.
Okay. Okay. We can manage records in Salesforce.
Salesforce. If you are
Yeah.
going to
Okay.
write a trigger in Salesforce, based on actions you perform in using this Omniscript and data raptor combination, like let's say
Yeah.
user has entered some data, and using data raptor load, I perform that load to Salesforce. So it's basically like you're automating that manual process,
Yeah. Okay.
right? So all the permission sets, sharing rules, OWDs, everything that is already there in Salesforce is going to be respected by Vlocity. So if user doesn't have permission to something, if user doesn't have some permission to something in Salesforce, then he doesn't have permission to that in Vlocity as well.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So when for the training sessions, will we have access to Vlocity? Will you be giving us?
Yeah. As part of our training, we are going to give Vlocity org access. That is not an open source like Salesforce, right? So yeah, we'll provide an org access, and
Okay.
we are going to give the success community access as well.
Mhm.
Vlocity success community. I wanted to show that as well. So it has a pretty good documentation. You can search for any topic, and not just this part. You can up to architecture level. Architect level. You'll find documentations for most of the things.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions or anything you want to know? All right. If no questions, then we can close it. So you can get in touch with Kishore. You can see the mobile number on the screen. You can WhatsApp him for any other details, right? When the batch starts, whatever it is you have.
Yeah, Prabha. Okay, I want to discuss with you. Okay, what time you need training daily as per an IST?
Yeah, let me get back to you on that. I know Arun has been talking to you guys on that. So it will be sometime in the morning or in the afternoon. So yeah, but it will be on the Eastern time, US Eastern time, daytime is what we're looking for. But I'll
Arun
confirm the time.
mentioned that to me.
Yeah.
But okay, Arun also mentioned to discuss the same with Prabha. So that okay, that is the reason I'm asking you.
Yeah, this is Prabhakar. So
Yes.
so we will. So how many hours per day that you guys give? He said it's about an hour and a half. And how many sessions?
1.5 hour session. Just to assume it like in 1.5 hour session daily.
Okay, how many sessions?
Total have 25 sessions.
25. So it's about 40 hours. Okay. So
yes, exactly.
So let me. I need to discuss with Deepak and Smita from our team, and we will finalize how many people and what time would work for us, and then we will confirm that with you. And I'll let Arun know, and he'll be in touch with you.
Okay.
Yeah, but this was good, man. This was very good. I think we'll definitely move forward, but I'll let you know about the next steps on this one.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so definitely. Okay, fine.
So
Thank you, everyone.
Dilip, yeah, just want to know, will Dilip be the instructor or will there be different people, different sessions?
No, actually, okay. So Dilip is the only trainer to actually taking care of the further sessions because of I cannot change the trainers, right? One person will dedicatedly give complete training. Okay, Dilip is the person to give complete training for this module.
Okay, so Dilip will be there for all the sessions, training.
Yes,
correct. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Deepak, I don't know if you have any questions, Deepak or Smita.
No particular questions at this time, Prab, but yeah, the only question that I was meaning to ask was Dilip be the trainer, which he said yes, so that's good.
No questions from my end also, but I'm looking forward to the training.
Cool. Thank you. Awesome.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Okay. Thanks for joining today's session. Okay. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes. Thank you. It's a nice demo.